So I've got everything back downstairs in the basement. At the end of the last episode, I had fully charged this thing up. I'm trying to remember as I sit here right now, had I let it finish top balancing or not? I don't think I did. So it actually took quite a while to get this thing to top balance. Again, I don't know if that's because of the way it was self-discharging during the test, or whether it was because of how I tried to set up a 24-volt battery and charge it off the X8. But in any case, it took a long time, like the better part of a week, to sitting at high voltage with this thing running, topping it up, before it finally balanced out. But balanced out it is. So now I need to do the load test. And to do that, we're back at the rack of servers, which is a fair bit dustier now, but so it goes. So my plan currently is to turn the Quattro back on, start charging it again because it's been self-discharging for a bit after I moved everything back down. So I know that it's top charged. Then I am going to turn on the inverter, turn on the rack of servers, that was probably loud, and run it until the batteries die. I have to reset the smart shunt back to 0 so that it records just the discharge. And that'll tell us how much capacity is still in those batteries and if cell 12 is the one that causes it to shut down. Now, last time I'd used this to do a load test, I had all 6 batteries here. And obviously, I've only got 1 now. I think it took like, it was going to be like 3 days of running, so this should be about 12 hours to discharge, give or take. So hopefully I should know by the morning. I didn't bring down my lights. Maybe I should have. I think I'm in shadow, but that's okay. First, let's go into Victor and Connect. Let's go to the smart shunt. So it's currently showing 99%. So actually, no, before I reset that, I want to go into BMS. Oh, gotta plug this in. Go to BMS-F. Is it on? Yep, it's on. So get this charging back up and, well, you'll see right here when it goes into high voltage disconnect. So as I sit here right now, while I'm starting to charge, the delta is 0.0102. So it's showing 274.4 amp hours right now. I suspect I need to calibrate it. So I'm going to wait till this goes to high, or whichever cell goes into high voltage disconnect, and then I'll see if I can calibrate this. How do I sync it to 100%? See, Andy's done some videos where he shows all of this. If I had watched those first, I would have known the answer. But I'm sure I saw in here somewhere an ability to say calibrate to 100%. Currently the charge is set to 3.55 volts for a cell, and that'll cut off the charging. So I'm not going to the full 2.65. Hey, Tatters. Wah, gotcha. Hello. Yeah, even when I am doing you a disservice and making you look silly, you don't care, you purr. Hmm? Well, while I'm waiting, I might as well keep going through. I have to kill the app because now I can't see the bottom of the app. Oh, JK. After watching Andy's video, I don't think you'll ever change. Where can I say that you're 100% charged? Yeah, the remaining capacity still says 277.2. Guess it doesn't update very often. So it's pulling in 1850 watts. Back on the 20 amp circuit so I can do that. Okay, well, I'll let that run. I'll show you what I'm doing. Nothing fancy here. That's as it was before. But here's the 2 rack UPSs. It's only 1 circuit, but, well, I guess no, it's got 2 circuit breakers there. Will you go in, please? All right. Flip those on, and they're lit up. And I heard the UPSs over here come on. But I don't want any of this to actually turn on until I start the test, which is taking a long time. I don't have this on its stand either, but not that it really matters. Prost. And after the last episode, I picked up a few more big resistors, so I don't make the mistake of trying to connect this thing without pre-charging the resistors. This is taking a lot longer than I expected. I guess it has been about a week since I moved it down here. Oh! So, it has gone into high voltage disconnect. It's not showing high voltage disconnect anymore. Oh, the voltage already dropped back down. That's weird. Ah, right! I forgot. When I was down here setting this up, when the cameras weren't rolling, I reconfigured this thing to stop charging early. So this may not be exactly 100%, but we're going to call it 100%. What energy might still be able to be pushed into the batteries is going to be watts, maybe a dozen watts or something, watt hours. It's not going to make a difference. Okay, so let's go back into Victron Connect. We're going to come to the Smart Shunt. It's absorption charging. That's why I still had a small amount of amp going into that. Anyways, so now we're going to go into history, and where can I clear history? I know I've seen it before. Ah, it's right there. Reset history. Yes, reset history. Okay, so now I'm pulling off that. The inverter's on. Let's turn on the server rack and start this test. All right. Got my two 2200 VA lead acid UPSs. Get those to come on. Oh, yes, this is an absolute mess, but I don't care. So let's see what the power draw is. Okay, so the dashboards are up. I am currently drawing, that's the history. Status. I am drawing a whopping 360 watts. Let's draw some more power. The system I was working on last, these two. It's not even 500 watts yet. All right, let's go a little bit more. So we'll turn on that cluster and we'll turn on this cluster. Now, when I did the original discharge test, I struggled to hit 2 kilowatts. I'll be happy to hit 1 kilowatt. All right, now I'm drawing about 1 kilowatt. My network. It's pretty. Oh, and now that's getting loud. 1200 watts. So I should, in theory, be able to get 14.3 kilowatt if cell 12 is not damaged, which should be a little under 10 hours. Now, as I record this, it's like 9 a.m. Or as I record this, it's about 10 p.m. No, 20 after 9. So I'm not going to be awake when this is finished. So what I might actually do after I turn off the camera is try to do some maths so that this thing should be getting close to running out of power when I'm up on the other side of the pillow. Actually, you know what? Let's see if we can aim for, let's do this. 14,300 divide by, let's say 12 hours. Right. At this load, okay, let everything settle down and see what my wattage is. This might actually be the perfect number to be discharging by tomorrow. 1178, 1220, 1191 for 12 hours. Yeah, this is going to work. This is going to be fine. So if I've done this math right, that will be dead in around 11 to 12 hours. If it dies a lot sooner than that, well, this history will tell me. I really hope it doesn't die, because I'd like to not go through the hassle of swapping out a dead battery for an RMA. But it's nice to know that's an option, so points to QSO. Let's wait to see what the test results are. For me, it's going to be till tomorrow. For you, it is the day the next. I don't know if I'm going to be able to catch this when it actually dies, because the voltage has started to drop off a bit dramatically at 48.93 volts right now. Cell 12 doesn't seem to be any lower than the others, so I think it's okay. I'm a little nervous because according to the shunt, let me see, I have pulled 13.3 kilowatts. I should have another kilowatt in here, which means I should run for a little more than an hour, which is what the Smart Shunt thinks. But with the voltage dropping off, I think I've fallen into the knee, so I don't know if I'm going to get the full 14.3. I guess we'll see. After I turned off the camera last night, I decided I wanted to reduce the load on the battery so that I knew it wouldn't be dead during the night. So I dropped the load to about 750 watts, which is what it's been pulling. Well, it's currently, as I record this, it's 2:30. So I think I started at 9:30. That was what, 17 hours? It's kind of crazy to think I've been running a rack of servers for 17 hours and I'm worried that it wasn't enough capacity. But at any rate, yeah, you can see the voltage is dropping 48.84, 83. Fingers crossed I get the full pull. I'm nervous, but let's see how close we get. So anyways, I wanted to bring you in now while it was still up and running before it died, just in case I miss it. Hopefully I don't. All right, well, just got the low voltage warning. Low battery. It turned off the inverter. Right, I programmed this to turn off the inverter early. So I'm not going to get a full depth of discharge. Well, you know what? This is similar to how I'm going to have it on the boat. On the boat. And it got me thinking, this might be an interesting test in and of itself, because my first thought was, man, let me start a screen record. I I didn't get anywhere close to the full 280. Let's see. History is 13.7 kilowatts. That's 600 watt hours short of what I expected. But while I was sitting here thinking about this and the camera was off, yeah, 264 amp hours out of 280. Let me plug that in. From the perspective of, is cell 12 pooched? No, it's not the one that caused the test to finish. It's sitting at the same voltage as everything else. So cell 12, which started all of this, seems to be fine. So what I want to do now is I want to set the voltages back to the way they were when I ran my first test, which means charge up to 3.65 volts and discharge all the way down to 2.5 volts. It's going to take a bit because I'm going to have to reprogram this, because this is currently set to stop charging relatively low and stop discharging relatively low. So with this current configuration, I got 264 amp hours. If this is my settings that caused it to not reach 280 amp hours, that'll be interesting because it means setting the batteries to a safe/conservative value sacrifices X amount of amp hours per battery, which is a good thing to know. And introduces a whole lot of additional questions. Right, so let's go into advanced settings. Yeah, so I had the cell over voltage set to 3.55. Let's set that to 3.65 like it was before. And we'll set the return to 3.6. And the under voltage protection was set to 2.65, which I did not hit because the inverter turned off too soon. So I'm going to set this to 2.5 as I had it before. And the recover I'm going to leave at, the under voltage protection recover I'm going to set to 2.6. I'm going to set the shutdown at 2.5. Okay. Sending failure. What did I do wrong? Why did it not like that? Usually it does this if I do something in the wrong order. The power off voltage has to be lower. For the sake of this test, let's set it to 2.45. Now I can set this to 2.5 and 2.6. Okay, so now that's all set. All right, I need to go in and configure this, which means I need my adapter. I will be right back. So I'm going to set this to just go all the way up and all the way down. Obviously, because these aren't perfectly balanced, yeah, my lights flicker when this turns on for some reason. I need to get that figured out. I'm hoping it's just the drivers and the LED lights I have. In any case, I configure this to go all the way down. I want the battery to shut off. I don't want the inverter charger to shut off. Battery testing. It's been a while, hasn't it? Warning, low battery. Yes, I know. I think I want 40 volts. 2.5 times 16 is 40 volts. So I'll leave the pre-alarm at 48. Let's set that to... I had this happen before where it just wouldn't save the changes. I don't know what it is with Victron Connect on my phone. Is it because there's an alarm that won't let me change it? That wouldn't make sense. Okay, let me restart the Victron app. I've had this happen a couple of times now. Which is unusual, because Victron's usually pretty good about this stuff. Okay, now it's set. And it automatically dropped. Okay, I want the pre-alarm to still be 48 volts. Okay, it wants me to reset this, but that's fine. I'll do that in a second. On the charger side, where's the bulk voltage? Can I please dismiss that? Yes, I know it's a low alarm. You're hiding some of your values, or some of the settings. Okay, there we go. View it and then close it. Okay, well, I'll set absorption all the way up to 58.2. Let me do my math just to make sure that was right. 58.4. And now I can't set settings again, so I have to quit the app. Come on, Victron, you do better than that. It seems like if I leave the app and come back, that's when it stops saving. All right, you gonna play nice this time? Yes, it did. 58.4 now. Okay, and the float's at 55.2. So now I let it recharge, and then I will repeat the drain test, hopefully overnight tonight, and then by tomorrow, I'll be able to see how much of a difference is. Really hoping after this relatively short period of time, my batteries haven't already dropped down to 264 amp hours from 280. That would make me very not happy. But I think it's fine, and it's just the way I've configured this. so that it stops early both on the charge and on the discharge, which is how I'm going to want it on the boat. But this number gives me an idea of what price I am paying to get that buffer. And maybe I won't. I mean, we just saw it go down to 2 volts and it didn't seem to hurt it. Maybe 3.65 and 2.5 are already the safe values where there's a buffer above and a buffer below. I don't know. I'm glad I'm doing these tests to find out. Okay, back in a bit. So it is another day the next, and the battery is fully charged-ish. It's gone into overcell protection, which I expected, with a 0.122 deviation. Yeah, 3.6 versus 3.4. So I'm kind of wondering, by stopping the charge and balancing at 3.55, if I didn't actually balance it. So I'm going to leave it. It is currently lunchtime on some day. I'm going to leave it, I think, for 4 or 5 hours and see if it charge, disconnect will help it balance out. That's a hell of a deviation. But ironically, it's cell 12 that's really low, I think. Yeah, 3.49. So maybe cell 12 isn't healthy after all. But it wasn't the one that stopped the discharge. It wasn't the lowest when the inverter shut off. So I don't know. But in any case, it is the only one that is really low, so I'm going to let it sit here for a while and see if it'll come back up. Cell 12 was the lowest, as we saw, but it actually didn't take long to catch up with the rest. So I left it sitting for a while, and I noticed that the charge current dropped off quite a bit. And I realized, wait a second, I set the float voltage too low. The absorption voltage is where... I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. Andy, Off-Grid Garage, explains this way better than I do. But the absorption voltage is the voltage where it's doing like the bulk charge. After it hits that, it drops down to the absorption and holds it for a period of time. Which means if the BMS cuts off the charge, what the hell is my thought? I just lost it. So the BMS cuts off its charge, and then eventually the cells drop down, it recovers, opens up for charging again, but this thing's dropped down now to the float voltage, which was actually too low to keep the batteries balancing as they were near the top. So I got to think a bit more about what I should set for float voltage and for float time. I think it's currently set to 1 hour. I might want to keep it like 8 hours while it's up at that high voltage and it's doing the balancing. It's got more time to do that. But in any case, for the sake of this test, it's top balanced. And let's go into first the BMS. Yeah, see, it's at 55.5 volts and it's getting 0.2 amp. I believe that's the float voltage. It even says it's at float. Float voltage shouldn't be charging at all. In any case, it's holding at 55.5 volts, which it has been for a long time. You know what, I'm going to turn this off, turn this back on, and that should send it back into bulk charge. Do I really need to do that? I'm kind of figuring this out while I talk to you guys. Oh, I closed the screen. So now the voltage should jump up, and it'll throw a little bit of a charge in, but it's so close to the top that I suspect it's going to go into the overvoltage disconnect fairly shortly. When it does, I'm going to reconnect the Quattro and see if I can configure it for a higher float voltage. Because they are so balanced, I mean, the delta at this point is 0.015. I'll see what the lowest voltage, no I won't. I'll see what the average pack voltage is, or cell voltage is, when it goes into the overcurrent disconnect. And I'll set the absorption, I'm getting all my terms mixed up, I'm sorry. Let me start over. Oh, there we go. I said I was going to start over, but then it just reached overvoltage disconnect, 3.67. Yeah, the voltage is shot up really high, and the deviation is 0.027. I'm not going to worry with any of that. We're going to restart the test now. It's very close to top balanced. So, unplug this from the wall. Let me show you what I'm doing here. So, while this was charging up, I ran this back into the wall. Now let's get it into here, get this into here. There we go. Can you focus on that, please? There we go. So AC loads are like 320 watts, which is, all of the physical servers in this are off. Oh, that is really kitty wonkus. So that 300 and some watts represents just like this is nerdly stuff, but the Ethernet switches, I've got a couple of 48-port stack switches here, enterprise switches. They draw more power than your standard switch. I've got another one at the back of the rack there, and I got the dashboards and the monitor, and then everything else just sort of latent. Or the UPSs, but they're not doing much. Point is, not much is on, which is partly why you can hear me right now. Let's fix that. All right. Now we should see, there we go. Now we should see it jump quite a bit. So where we have 1400 watts. When I did this test before, the machines were just sitting idle. I'm not going to make you watch anything, obviously, but I've got to get back to work. But the good side is, that means it's going to get noisy now. I'm going to put this under a lot of load, and I'm going to see how high I can drive up the consumption on this thing. See if I can burn it down quicker. Either way, god damn, that's obnoxious. Either way, this begins the test now where instead of setting, like I think it was like 2.6 volts and 3.5 volts, whatever it was that I had set the stop discharging, stop charging, now we went all the way to 2.65 per cell, and we're going to go all the way down to 2.5 per cell. I think the high score was 260, I can't remember now. That amount. That's how many amp hours it pulled last time. Let's see if we can get closer to 280 this time. I will see you on the other side of my pillow. Do you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to reset this smart shunt. It drained about 5%, and then I realized I'm not tracking it properly. So I plugged it back in. I'm not going to make you watch all of this. Just letting you know that I've plugged it back in. I'm going to charge it back up to 100%. Then I'm going to reset the smart shunt, and then I'm going to start the test, which actually reminds me I need to move the loads. Put the loads back on the mains so that this can just focus on charging. At least I caught it at 5% and not at like 85% and had to start over. Go me! Good morning. It is another day, and this thing is completely dead. Or more specifically, that's completely dead. So I don't even have enough power to see what's going on here. So I'm going to plug this in, put this thing back up, and see how many kilowatt hours we pulled. What? It thinks it's 100%. 13.7. I'm still down 600 watts. Let's see what the BMS voltages are. 2.8, 2.7. Remaining capacity 0.0 amp hours. Okay, that's disappointing. I'm down 600 watt hours. All right, I am going to... Man, that's a lot. Okay, I'm going to ponder this for a bit. In the meantime, I'm going to get this charged up to probably about 50%. And then I'm going to shut it down, set it aside, and I'm going to set up the next battery, charge it up, and do a discharge test on it. I want to see if the 600 watt hour loss is consistent across all the batteries. These batteries are a couple years old now, and I know that LFP batteries drop a little bit after they're brand new, so maybe this is expected. Yeah. Alright, so I've got my answer on this battery. The cell seems to be okay, and I seem to be down a fair bit of power. I mean, 600 watt out of 14,300 watt hours. It's arguably not huge, but yeah, in the next video, I'm going to bring, I'm not going to make you watch all of this stuff, but in the next video, I'm going to fully charge each pack, see how much power it took to charge each pack, go back to the original test of seeing how the different BMS settings made a difference on parasitic drain. We're also going to do a discharge test on all of them, and yeah, see if 600 watt hours is consistent. I'm the Digital Mermaid. I'm slightly disappointed, but this is learning. See you next time.